The East African community launched the Tripartite Free Trade Area that stretches from Cape to Cairo. TFTA comprises 26 countries representing almost 57% or $1 trillion of Africa's GDP. However, the African Union is championing the Continental Free Trade Area, CFTA as it's known. And to talk trade in Africa, we are joined in the studio by Dr. Peter Karungu, who is an economist and consultant. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much, and nice to have you.
What does this trade agreement mean for Africa?
I think first and foremost, it means A, there will be mobility of goods across the continent without what we call added transactional cost. It means that the countries will have literally, in terms of goods for now, a merchandise flow without going through all what we call duty, inspection, and if nothing else, it will create fast delivery of goods across the continent. But if you look at it, we are seeing between 2004 and 2014, in a span of 10 years, these member states, 26 of them, saw growth of trade from 30 billion to $106 billion. Trust me, in the next 10 years, with the same agreement, that will move from 100 billion to excess of 250 billion on a lower level.
Where does this agreement then put the existing deals? We're talking about the EU trade deal and the current AGOA free trade agreement as well.
Look, with the free trade agreement, it gives two forces. A, it gives the member state to be able to trade among themselves, and gives either individual member state or group member states to negotiate on behalf of the rest. So either way, it is most the beneficial agreement that we have seen in the history of the continent. Don't forget, we are seeing an agreement that will affect or will be able to benefit over 620 million people at any rate. Given the growth in these particular member states, we are going to imagine, or we are going to see a phenomenon growth, both not only in trade, but an injection of growth into this member state, probably unheard of before.
Now, SADC has been advocating for reindustrialization of the African countries.
Yes.
And we also have Zimbabwe, Zimbabwe is chairing SADC, advocating for the beneficiation process.
Yes.
How is then this going to impact on the agreement? Because other countries may not agree that if their private sectors invest in a certain country, they have to give up their 50% share.
A very good point. A, I said to you, between 2004 and 2014, the growth was of 100 billion. Of that, 70 billion were among the SADC regional states. That says a lot. And therefore, it means then, what the SADC member state was doing and they were doing could benefit the bigger member states. More than that, you raised a very important question, and this is something people don't debate. When you hear beneficiation, indigenization, ownership, that's a question Zimbabwe have addressed against odds, single-handedly. And it is a common adage, it's a common fact that if Africa will have to be able to be counted as a global player in the economic discourse of the day, today, tomorrow, or 100 years, it has to be owned by the Africans. If you look at it, the proportion of the ownership of African resources today is overwhelmingly in the hands of what we call multinational. Are the multinational South African or African owned? The answer is no. So that question is the second level, but it could not have been negotiated or discussed by a single state. And I hope the Zimbabwean discussion, not how they behave, will be very important in the discourse going ahead.
Surely it's a good thing to have a free flow of goods amongst the countries. But then the question of visas could create a problem. And secondly, the level of protectionism, and also looking at some countries feeling that their sovereignty may also be impeded if there is free for all.
Agreed. That's a very good point. Look, when you have free trade, let's say we go one step at a time. You first with trade, you go a step rather to monetary union, and if you are lucky, you go to an integrated, what we call free world, or what we call free country, whereby immigration don't count. At this level, we are at the lowest stage of what we call unionization of the African continent, which means maybe the level you are going to will take another 5 years to go ahead. That's point number one. Point number two, we are saying, is there any way we can be able to use the African ability to trade among themselves to create opportunity for the betterment of the African? Look, when we teach economics, we say, do allow free trade so that a country will benefit from what they have in comparative advantage. What does that mean in simple language? It means if corn grows better in KZN or sugar grows better in KZN, let sugar flow within the continent without any inhibition, and where they grow tea and coffee, the coffee and tea flows back to KZN rather than for tea and coffee to go to Europe and back to KZN, or sugar to go from where we are to European Union and then back that. So we are saying, if this were to be implemented, and it will be, we are going to see a phenomenon opportunity that is beyond trade. But I agree with you. There will come a time when we need to say, listen, why do we have now to have free trade, maybe free monetary union, and then not maybe free flow of people?
Is there going to be a clash in as far as, say, for example, BRICS countries doing business amongst themselves, 26 African states doing business amongst themselves, and then we are having AGOA and we have the European trade deal? Is there going to be synergy amongst all the trade deals in place?
Good point. The answer is simple. If the 26 member states are doing very well, they don't need the third party. Would you agree? In that case, we are saying, let's clean our house first. Let's build strength among ourselves to be able to have a voice when we go to discuss with the BRICS, we go to discuss AGOA, we go to discuss the AU. Listen, the fact is, over the last many years, the trade between Africa and the rest of the world has always been 4-5 times greater than the trade among African states and themselves. Now we are saying, let's first of all create a bigger block of trade among ourselves, and therefore we can be able to negotiate in unison or as a union with another trading bloc rather than to discuss individually.
All right, so where does this put NEPAD then, just in closing?
I think it puts us in a position where we are going to see, and I'm almost certain, a place whereby NEPAD will be accelerated. A lot of what we see African, because African are African. We can pretend we are, when we live in France, we are French, or when we are in America, we are American. Forget it. We are African, and until we grow the strength in-house for us to be able to compete globally, it will be based not from outside, inside, but from inside, outside.
Right. Well, thank you very much for your insightful analysis on the meaning of the formation of this Tripartite Free Trade Area. Thank you very much.
Most welcome.
All right.
Okay,
I'm speaking here to Dr. Peter Karungu, who is an economist and consultant. And of course, we'll be talking about the COMESA, SADC and East African Community Tripartite Free Trade Area that has been established recently in Cairo by 26 African states.